Good day, everyone. We are the reviewers of the previous group's work, and we are glad to present to you our review on the Filipino audiovisual translation on Extraordinary Attorney Wu. This presentation is based on our paper where we critique the preliminary translation of EAW, accomplished by the previous group. It aims to be the model for future work on Filipino audiovisual translation, specifically for Korean media. And here are the guidelines we use for quality assurance of the subtitles: AGSub, Netflix, online dictionaries, and our own knowledge of the Filipino language. For this first part, we focus on the strengths of the translation, which are contextualization, formality, and extralinguistic research. For the sake of brevity, we'll only briefly mention the examples since some of these have already been presented by the previous group. Firstly, we commend the translator's ability to localize words and phrases in a way that still captures the essence of the original script. For instance, we have here Katangi-Tangi Attorney Wu as a title, giving a positive spin to the word isanghan, which means weird or strange in Korean. There's also the Filipino palindrome, the one that Wu uses in her introductions. As we know, palindromes are unique to every language, so for translating them, we need a specific localization like this example right here. Alaala, salas, oso, alila, dapat. Cursing is also a challenge that the translation was able to overcome. Because of the intensity of profanities, it's sometimes difficult to express the substance and offense of the original language. However, we think that this is an adequate translation of the context, especially since it followed Netflix's guidelines to keep offenses less obscene. Another commendable translation is on the jokes and puns, such as this example, which is a wordplay of panalo to win and Yongwoo's name. This is especially original and creative, knowing that it's very Filipino-like to use names when making jokes. Apart from contextualization, our group also applauds its consistency in translating formalities. Korean, with its many speech levels to show politeness, is a challenging language to translate. Fortunately, for this translation, they made use of the politeness particles po and apo. They also used third-person pronouns to show how the characters respect each other. And they also attach address terms to names such as Ginoo and Ginang. Lastly, our group commends the translator's commitment to research, as we have been informed that the legal and technical jargons are backed with research. Without a doubt, this shows the translator's dedication in pursuing the closest translation possible, despite the challenges that surround it.
For this part, the weaknesses presented focus on the issues on length, proofreading and grammar, and word choice and phrasing. The length of certain subtitles makes the material difficult to read and gives little time for comprehension and digesting the dialogues. For example, 444 to 464, where most characters per second go over the maximum. Another criticism is of the consistency of retaining words in English. For example, the word sustained is retained in 839, but it was translated as tanggap in 1055. Another example is kayak and did, which was not translated in 213, but translated in other sequences. Another one is on contractions. The translated subtitles lack apostrophes to distinguish two words apart, and there were also few mistakes on how the constructions were used. For example, ano ang should be written as ano apostrophe nang instead of anong, and taon ng pagkakakulong should be taong pagkakakulong. Another issue is that some dialogues lack proper linkers and articles. One example is, gusto mo ba ako kumatok in 184. The lead actor was asking Yongwo if he should knock for her instead. Gusto mo ba ako kumatok just directly translate to, do you want me to knock? But adding the article na in the sentence, as in, gusto mo ba ako na ang kumatok? Or gusto mo ba ako na kumatok? Implies that he is asking her if she wants him to knock for her.
Although in conversational Filipino, we sometimes omit the linkers and determiners, it is better for such translations to be properly structured because not only native Filipinos would use these Filipino subtitles. Another issue we have observed is the typological mistakes present in their preliminary subtitle, such as in 163 they did not capitalize the first letter despite it being the beginning of a new sentence. Another is the word Panggaya in 998, which may or may not be a typographical error due to how close it is to the word Paggaya, which is the more appropriate word for the scene's context due to their slightly different connotations. Panggaya ng iba has an implication that you're something or a tool that you use to imitate something, while paggaya ng iba translates to imitating others.
Another one would be their use of words that are not commonly used in conversations. For example, the word hukluban, which means old and forgetful in KWF, but also roughly translates to witch in Philippine mythology as their translation for old man.
And tik-tik, which they used for the word detective. There are also cases of where the translations do not capture the nuance of the scenes. For example, in 790, the paumanhin seems to be an inadequate word to describe the main character's guilt for causing the death of the defendant's husband. As students of language and audience, here are some of the suggestions we have provided for the translators to consider to better express the intent, context, meaning, and to make the audiovisual experience of the audience more pleasant and enjoyable.
After reviewing the preliminary translation of Extraordinary Attorney Wu, we have determined translation issues from a larger perspective, which may fall under the following categories: contextualization, equivalence, and appropriateness. Given the nature of the drama, there are many legal jargons used throughout not only the episode, but the entire show. This becomes a challenge in the translation process, as several factors need to be taken into consideration. First, is there an exact equivalent for the legal term or expression in Filipino? Second, if there is no exact equivalent, but it is possible to translate the term or expression, should it still be translated? Third, if there is an exact equivalent, would the term or expression be better understood in English or in Filipino? Fourth, if selected terms have exact equivalents, while others do not, should they still be translated or kept in English for consistency? And lastly, if English is used for such terms and expressions in scenarios in Philippine context, for example, in courtroom hearings or in Filipino legal dramas, should they still be translated when creating subtitles? As presented earlier on, consistency and equivalence of the translation was an issue found within the Filipino subtitles. For example, some legal expressions seen in the episode include objection, argumentative, sustained, and leading question. Whereas objection is not translated, argumentative is stated as makikipagtalo, sustained as tanggap, and leading question as nangungunang tanong. These are not actual equivalents used in Filipino legal settings, but rather approximated translations. This once again brings about the question of whether or not translating is the best course of action in this case for the consistency of the subtitles. Translations, especially for jargons, may lead some viewers to find the dialogue to be unclear, as word for word or even closely approximated translations do not always equate to the meaning of the jargon used. Another issue concerns the translation of expressions from English to Filipino. For example, the greeting "it's been a while" was translated into "long time no see." This is undoubtedly used in Filipino conversations as a way of greeting a person that you have not seen in a while. However, the expression itself is not in Filipino. Furthermore, "long time no see" is an informal phrase mostly used among peers and in informal conversations. However, the scene described in this portion was suspenseful, and the character had a somewhat serious disposition. Therefore, this may not be an appropriate translation. In general, the scene and the characters' overall appearance, and even their personalities, must be taken into account when it comes to translating their dialogues in order to properly convey their true meaning.
Successful in familiarizing themselves and then interpreting legal jargon, in localizing Korean dialogue, including jokes, so as to make it familiar to Filipino viewers, and in making the dialogue clear and the content accessible. While their weaknesses mostly were in inconsistencies in translation and in word choice. Overall, the translation and research are praiseworthy. For these reasons, the reviewers believe that this AVT work could very well be the framework and reference for future translations on other K-drama titles. To the translator's credit, applause is certainly well deserved. Further research can also spring up from these efforts because admittedly the literature on Filipino AVT is still quite lacking. And that's everything we have for today. Thank you so much for listening. Our references will be flashed in the next few slides.